What is going on, everybody? This is Gary B. Jr., and I am excited to be with you guys today. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. So, strap on your seatbelt and let's get into it. First off, in the chat, let me know where you're checking in from and joining us. I love to hear that and see the impact all over the world here lately, or since this channel has begun. There's been a lot of impact in other nations, and I'm excited about that. And I would love to continue to see that grow and continue to make impacts all over the globe. And so, my goal is to today go over some review stuff that we've gone over and released this week. It's a lot of videos that got released this week, and then also discuss some. Hey, what's going on, Christopher? How you doing, my man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Um, but we're going to be going over a lot of different things review wise, and then also jump into some beginner, intermediate, and advanced level topics. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Let's first review. Let me see what we got here. I'm gonna pull up something for you guys, and it'll be my channel to look at some videos that we've come out with today, or this week I should say. And so here's what we got. We had, maybe 5 videos that came out this week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in the past 3 days. And so controlling the show, controlling the stage view, uh, or controlling the show from stage view is something we're going to talk about later on. That's going to be something we're going to go in depth about. But we had a lot of good discussion about stage, no, not stage view, but scheduling shows and auto playing playlists, but looping videos, right? Someone asked how to loop videos in FreeShow. Make sure to check that out if you have not already, if you have questions about how to do it, because I think at any given point, in any ministry or any service, there's going to be a time where you're going to need to loop a video. And to me, looping the video has a lot to do with maybe it's going on during a timer, maybe it's going on before things get started, or even after things are over. You want to make sure that that video is going to loop properly. And come to find out, there's some things that FreeShow defaults to allow videos to loop if they're set to background. If they're set to foreground, then it's not going to default to that. So you want to be aware of how that works and when to use it, how to use it. That video goes in depth with it. And then scriptures in the stage view. Someone asked about how to show the next scripture. And I think they may have asked it before the latest update in 1.4.1, but in 1.4.1, it's a lot easier than what meets the eye. It's really simple. And it actually works even with the quick reference scriptures from what I saw. And Christopher, you can let me know if that's the case. But from what I tested, it looked like it was working with the quick reference and it was working with scriptures that were a part of a show. Whereas I think in the past, the quick reference verses didn't always work that way. Mr. John, how you doing from Romania? And Christopher, I see you from Norway. I didn't even say your country. So yeah, thank you for joining from Norway and Romania. I'm here in Kansas City in the Georgia, the great state of Georgia, as a new resident. And so yeah, I'm excited about that. When it comes to um, understanding how to go to that next one here, the scheduling shows. This one is fun. This one is a really cool one that goes back to that whole, I'm gonna say it's like automation for you as a media volunteer, that it is invaluable if you have something that you know is going to happen at the same time, on time, every time, right? So every week you have your service start at a certain time. You might as well just make a show that automatically starts at a certain time and just schedule it and go from there, right? And that's something that'll always be up when it's time. And all you have to do is have free show open, and it'll automatically switch to that for you. And that might be when you first come in to the church building and or event space, wherever you're going to be working or serving, and you actually turn on free show, turn on all your other programs and all that kind of stuff, but have free show on, and it'll automatically start up when it's supposed to in that sense. And that's something that's really cool. And then this latest video was the auto play playlist, right? Someone asked, how do you make a playlist automatically start playing? And this is simple as using an action to do it. And so I'm recapping these pretty quick because I want you to go back and you can watch them on your own in depth. Today, we want to make sure we dedicate the time we've got to doing some other things. I've got another meeting that happens at 12. I got to be off by 12:30 to get to a meeting at 1 here East Coast time. So, but yeah, the autoplay for your songs, this is important as well. It kind of goes back to scheduling shows. They kind of go together because if you set a show to schedule and you want music to be playing while that show is playing, and it's not just a generic video that already has music or audio built into it, you want just a playlist that you've got to play, and you have those songs on your computer, you can do that. With this autoplay for the playlist, which is another action that's really cool. And you can actually tie that action to the first slide of the show and make it run automatically. And those are just some of the features. I would call those probably like an intermediate level feature. And I say intermediate because intermediate to me is where you start to get comfortable with the basics of FreeShow and you're not on edge or nervous about things not going right, right? So you're comfortable saying, I know that I can make this work right. Now the question is, how can I improve the process? How can I optimize? How can I be more efficient with the process? And that would be, to me, what I would consider you being at that intermediate stage in the process. All right. Anytime during the discussion today, make sure to post your questions if you have any. I'll do my best to keep up with the chat. I've got it down here on my computer, on my laptop. And so that's something that's helpful. And then also, we'll go through just 3 topics: a beginner level topic, intermediate topic, and then an advanced level topic. So let's start with our first topic. And this has to do with templates and styles. Templates and styles to me are so important in FreeShow for a number of different reasons. And the main reason probably being they to me are the foundation of FreeShow. And Christopher, you can jump in on this anytime if you want to give me some feedback. But from my understanding and my experience with FreeShow, if you understand how to set up your templates the way you want and you know how to use them, right? Because there's so many questions that come up on Reddit where I kind of frequent that pretty often, and even through the YouTube chat that I have here, and I'm sure questions probably come up on Facebook. I'm just not actively using Facebook or being in that group, but I'm sure a lot of the answers to those questions are going to stem from understanding how to use templates and styles. Let's see here. John says, let's see. Oh, we got good morning from New York, Philadelphia Seventh-day Adventist Church. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And then we got something from John. I'm not sure if there's a possibility to add an action to a show category and to be limited to that category only. Yeah, absolutely. You can. You can for sure. We'll talk about that. Just remind me about that, John, in a minute, because that's a good point. So when we talk about templates and styles, so I'm in FreeShow right now, and I go to my templates. And with your templates, the idea is I've got a bunch of different templates, right? So I've got scripture templates, I got presentation templates, and I do a lot of testing. So a lot of these things you may not have to have. Like, I don't expect you to have 25 templates in each of your categories or 17 or 20 or wherever, like I've got here. But what I would say is that you have completely customize the design the way you want to show up in your ministry meetings, right? And so for me, I decided to make my lower thirds be a separate category because those are important to me. For me, so I've got a number of lower thirds for scriptures, and I've got a number of lower thirds for songs, right? And so those are important, but on any given day, if I were doing a ministry meeting, I would probably only use one set of the lower thirds for songs, and then one set for the lower thirds for scriptures, and then maybe one that's unique for just regular presentations in terms of songs. I say for regular one for songs, and then one for presentations if the pastor has notes and they're using those to teach or whatnot. And I would probably not even use that because most of the time in the ministries I've been a part of, at least, there wouldn't be a lot of preaching slide notes. It would just be scripture references that they wanted us to put up. So I would have a total of probably 4 different templates that I would use. And those 4 templates would be lower thirds for the live stream, right? A lower third scripture, lower third song. And then I would have a regular slide in-house for scriptures and for songs. And that would be pretty much it. So you just pick the ones you like the most. Now, your background can change, right? If you're doing songs and you're doing scriptures, you can change the background anytime you want to. I usually don't tie my backgrounds to my templates, right? That's just my preference. We got Al joining in from Illinois. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so Al, we're talking about templates and styles and how important they are to FreeShow and how to streamline this process. And I'm saying this because this is a beginner level discussion to say, hey, you don't have to use every single template that you've got in FreeShow. And I've got a number of them, as I said. I've got some available on my website. You can download for free if you like them, but you don't have to accumulate them and just stash them and have them just to say you have them. Use the ones that you want to download, the ones you want to use, and then use them, right? And use them regularly, use them consistently, because consistency is a big part of I would say the effectiveness of a media team and media ministry, because the more consistent you can be, the less people will consider and or think about what you're doing as a distraction, right? When things change in terms of the slide changes, they're not thrown off because all of a sudden this slide is big, bright, and yellow, where every week for the last 4 weeks they've been a forest green, right? If you start doing major changes like that and drastic things, it draws people's attention away from the message and more towards the technology. And as a media leader in ministries, and just as a consultant, a media consultant, I always would steer anybody away from that, from being a distraction when it comes to the technology. It just should aid in making the message that much more clear, making the message that much easier to understand. And so we have a major role in doing that, because we are the in between. We're between the person sharing the message and the people hearing the message. That's where you come in. You are the media, the medium in between. All right. And that's using your tools. That's using the computer. That's using OBS, or using FreeShow, or using the cameras, whatever it is that you use. Those are all mediums to help us do that. Um, and so I was asking, can I explain the difference between styles and templates? Absolutely. So I've gone in depth about different types of templates, right? Now, I would say templates are the foundation, because you would start with your templates every time, right? Every time you open up FreeShow as a new user, the first thing I would advise you to do, or encourage you to do, if you get any of my programs or tutorials or anything like that, the first thing it's going to say is start with your templates, because those dictate how everything looks. And once you dictate how you want it to look, if you say, you know what, I want to have lower thirds that has a logo on it, right? And so you make yourself a lower thirds and you put your logo in there, like I've got here, right? From my scriptures, I got a lower thirds with my logo, and you want that to be the case every time. You've got to design that. You got to create that, and now it's set. Now all you do now is just pick the scripture you want to show up on there, but the lower thirds is done, right? So your scripture, or your templates, are going to serve as your basically the outline for whatever your slides are going to look like. They're going to serve literally as a template for what your slides are going to look like every time. And all you're doing is filling in text, right? You're filling in content into the template. So the song might change, but the template stays the same. So the template dictates the actual. So if I right click on this and I go to edit, for example, let's see what this template dictates. So this template shows space for scripture here, it says, but it's really just one line. So it actually is for songs or any music. It's not two verses, or not room for a verse or a reference. And it's actually a part of my my song. So this would just be room for verses or words on a lyrics on a song, but the size is set to be 55. Okay. If it's going to be more text than 55 font can fit, then this template says, hey, auto size it to be smaller. All right, shrink to fit. That's what your template dictates. It dictates the font size. It dictates the background color, right, of the actual font. Like right now, I've got this box. And so if I go to the item, it dictates that background is going to always be white. No matter what scripture or what song I put here, this background is going to always be white. And this text is always going to be this charcoal gray or black color. It's not exactly black. It's kind of like a charcoal dark gray, I think is what I've set it to kind of go with the logo. All right. And so your templates are going to dictate your font size, the background colors of the fonts or the text, and the text color and the color of the actual background itself. All right. You can do a lot of different things with your templates in terms of the alignment. You can make it, your template determines if it's aligned to the left or if it's aligned to the right. If anything is going to be underlined or italics, right? So all these different presets are designed in the template. And every time you change into a new song, they're all going to look the same. They're going to all be italics if you make it be italics in this template. So I can select this and I can say italicize. That means anything that goes in when I have this template active is going to be in italics. Okay, period. And that's simply what it does. And that's a very, very important facet to understanding FreeShow, because to me, it brings a lot of relief. It makes me say, okay, got it. I can make my template how I want and make the sizing the way I want, and I'm good to go. So if I go to my scriptures here, and I've got, let's see, if I right click and go to edit, and I got this big scripture set up here, and I got the little scripture down here. This is actually the actual verse itself. Okay, this is the text of the verse. I want it to be big, right? So if I go to my text box, which I've got here, I've got it set to font size. Let's see if I click it. It's font size 160. All right, but it's set to, if anything, the text of that scripture is too long, I've got it set to where it will not run off the edge of this and get cut off. It'll just shrink to fit. All right. That's important to me as a media team person. However, for you, the best way to approach this is to set it to be auto size, or go through all the verses ahead of time and make sure they fit, and you can set the font size and not have to worry about the auto size. For me, in the ministries I've been a part of, I'm not always aware of what verses are going to come up. And so auto size is my best friend, right? Because I don't want to get stuck not knowing and then end up having a font size that's too big. And that's where my preference comes in that sense, right? Now, there's some new features in FreeShow that you can use where you can actually cut or kind of split the text so it won't run over. But that happens with the scriptures, but not necessarily with songs or anything like that. All right. So that's something that's really cool, which I like. All right. So that's a feature, but same thing. So this, I determined the font. The font is CMG Sans, but if I change that font and I scroll through here, I can make it be Damascus, right? So it has little feet to it or whatnot, right? If I wanted to change the font to be regular, semi-bold, or light bold, or whatever it is, you can do that as well, but you can change the font and all that stuff in your template in every song, no matter what it looks like. Every scripture, no matter what it looks like, when you pick this template, it's going to automatically form to fit these settings for that particular template. All right. And so that's important. That's what a template is. Now, shifting gears, once you determine what your templates are, the style is altogether different in a good way, right? So if I go to my settings and I go over to styles, styles are where you plug in your templates, and they serve as a template for the entire show, right? For the entirety of the feel of the whole output. Okay. So not necessarily just what's going in the fonts of the slide. They go above that. They're saying we don't care about the font. You pick the font with your template, and what we want to do is we want to determine the aspect ratio of the screen, right? This is what the style determines. The style determines what's the background color of the whole screen. When you clear everything out, what color is going to show up on the screen for the output? Is there going to be a logo back there? You can pick a background media. Your style will let you put in a background logo. For example, if you want to, where when you clear out everything, that logo stays there the whole time, right? Which is a cool way to have it set up if you wanted to. Your style dictates the transitions, right? So it's not saying I care about the font, but I do care about how these slides transition, right? You can determine all that here. And then how do the pictures fit? How do the videos fit? Do they fit as making sure everything is contained into the output? Do they fit as everything is going to cover to where it's just going to make it be big enough to where everything's going to be filled in? Is it going to fill it by stretching? Or is it going to be a blur fill where it'll contain it, but also make a blow up version of it that's kind of blurred out? Okay. That's all determined by your style. And it does the same thing as a template in the sense that every particular picture you put in while you're using this style is going to have the blur fill default. It's going to have whatever logo you put back there as a default. It's going to have this background color as the default for that particular style. But the style has to do more with your outputs, okay, overall. Not just with the slide, but everything that goes on in terms of the output, right? So the TV size screen or the monitor screen, the projector screen, you can change that to be, oh, I got a 4:3 projector. Okay, well, we make it be 4:3. Your style is going to dictate that. So everything that goes out on that projector is going to fit in a 4:3 aspect ratio. All right. And then you can also customize that if you need to use a custom value if you needed to. I got mine set to 16:9, which is pretty universal for most TVs these days. But there are some projectors and even older TVs that will have that 4:3 aspect ratio. And then some newer aspect ratios are a lot wider with this 1.1.85 to 1, 239 to 1, 21 to 9. All those are just different aspect ratios of a different view, a different way you want to see the image. All right. Which may make sense if you've got like a LED screen that's really long, right? Those can come in handy in that way as well. All right. Let me make sure I'm not missing any comments here. Let's see here. GB Media. Hey, Gary, I am George. You, sir, are a great teacher. God bless you. God bless you too, GB. I just realized we had the same initials. Man, I noticed that from day one. That's why I was like, GB, that's me. Look, well, my dad, he would go by GB. I'm GB Jr. is what I call myself now. Gary B. Jr. is what I go by. So I love it, man. I love it. So going back to these styles. So with your style, you dictate the overall output of your show, but then it does give you some, I'm gonna call it granular settings that you can change for your slides, right? But it still is based on the output in general, right? It's dictating what goes out to the screen. And so you can determine the active layers on your slides and it'll override whatever you put on your slideshow, even in your template. Um, the style will override that. That's why you start with the template and then you determine the style that you want to have for your output. And so for me, I've got two different styles right now for these two outputs. I've got a live stream output, and then I've got a primary output up here in the upper right that you can see. Now, the thing that makes that important for me is my live stream output does not include any background info. So if I go to, let's see here, I think it's set to stream training. So if I go to stream training, you'll see that the background does not show up, and that's what this is set to right here. No background. That's what those gray little checker boxes are. That's what that is. This is a blank, transparent output that I've got set as a part of also my output. So when I went to my output for my live stream, you'll see I've got stream training as the style, and I made my output be transparent. Okay, that's what those gray boxes do. But back to that style for my stream training, I've also got it to where text for the slides, they don't show up either, right? And so this is for my live stream for Free Show Friday. The way I've got it set is I don't want you guys to see welcome to Free Show Friday, because if I did, so if I turn this on, watch what happens here. If I refresh and go to show, actually, I can't even refresh because I got, let's see. All right, let's do refresh. What should happen is it should pop up the text over there, but I don't have a show playing, so it's not doing it's not doing anything. This is the show that did play, but let's go back out. Let's go back to our settings. So for me, for stream training, I don't want to show any slides because what you guys are seeing down at the bottom, where you see, let's see here on this side, not that far down there where it says templates and styles. That's what this is. That's what this screen is. It's just in OBS coming in through NDI, and there's no background to it, no slide text, just an overlay. So I've made some overlays that I want to show down at the bottom for that. And then you can also dictate for each slide. This is where it'll override your template. You can have, in your template, you can have one big box, and that one big box has 6 lines of text. That's great. In the style though, you can override that and say max lines per text box to 2. And it'll say, hey, those 6 lines, we're going to break them up into 3 slides. And those 3 slides now are going to be what this style dictates, because it says, hey, we're going to do the first 2 lines, and then we're going to do the next 2 lines, and then we're going to do the next 2 lines. Because your style says, hey, there's only a limit of 2 lines per slide. It's not going to cut any of the text out and say you don't get to show it. It's just going to manage it and say, okay, when you click to the right to go to the next slide, we'll show the next 2 lines. But you're on the same slide in your view. Click it again, you're going to go to the next 2 lines. You're still on the same slide that has 6 lines, right? And so it'll dictate that. And you can turn that off or on. You can clear that out if you wanted to and make it not do that. But it can dictate those aspects of your slide. Now, this is the other part. This is why the templates are the foundation, because you literally can set what you want your template to do. So you can override your slide with a template based on whatever style you pick. So down here is a list of all the different styles I've got. By no means would I expect anybody to have, I've got, I don't know, 10 or 12 different styles here. I don't know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 different style types. That's mostly just because I train this stuff and I practice and test out different things. That's it. You all probably will only have 2 or 3 of those at the most, is my guess, for a regular service with one ministry. Right now, if you're doing this as a business, right, which I do as well. I'm a media consultant, so I do this. I do live streaming for other organizations and things like that. So I do have certain things set up. Like this is a ministry that I'd live stream for, so I have a separate style for them, right? For you guys, you wouldn't necessarily need that if you're volunteering at one church, right? So you can override your slide, okay, on your songs, right? So let's say you're playing a song and you're playing the song, but that song, you want to override it to where every time you play that song with this style, you want it to be, for me, I've got it set to be upper I got it. It's FSF, Free Show Friday lyrics. Shout out to somebody on the in the chat that said, "Hey, I look forward to FSF Day," or something like that. And it's still for Free Show Friday, so I started using that. So this is upper third lyrics for my slide text, and then I've also got an override scripture template for upper thirds scripture transparent as well. So I've got two different templates set, one for lyrics and then one for scriptures. Those are templates that if I click on this, it gives me a list of all my templates that I showed you guys earlier. I can pick those and my style will override every time, right? So the style dictates what is seen in output overall, no matter what template that you have decided, but your templates can be a part of what you decide that style is going to do. Okay. So the templates fit into your style and they can play a part in what that override is going to look like. But if you don't have any templates to start with, you'll never be able to do an override. Right. So you got to start with some templates. Another thing your style can do, it'll dictate the way that your metadata is displayed if you want it to, and it dictates the way that your messages will show up if you have any special messages that you want to show to the congregation or to the fellowship at any point in time. There's basically a default template that you would use for that, this preset, and you can always change that if you wanted to as well. All right. So your styles are directly connected to your output, because when you go to outputs now, and you say, hey, I want this to go to the TV that's wherever it may be. This one, I don't have it set to do it. It's an invisible window. But if I go to my primary, let's see here. I've got it set to where if I would activate it, it would go to a screen on the, this is a computer a monitor I actually disconnected, but I can make it go to my top monitor or my second monitor. But when it goes out, what style is it going to be? It's going to be a default style for that monitor, right? If you have a stage monitor, you would change this to be some type of stage background, but you would make it be a stage output before you even get there. So I've got a stage output active now down here. This is what that looks like. It's showing the current slide, but there's no slide after it because it's the last slide. You want to dictate what that particular output is going to have. That TV monitor or projector is the output. You dictate a stage layout. So you have the layout, which is like having a style, okay, for your stages, okay? And then there's 3 different ones that I've created here, just like a template, all right? And so if I go back to my primary, I can pick a lot of different styles based on all those ones that I showed you guys earlier, right? So I've got those 11 different or 10 or 11 different styles. I can pick any one of those. I've got mine set to the default because that's the one I prefer for this particular output that I've got, okay? And so templates and styles. Understand how to design your templates. It's almost like using PowerPoint. That's what my best version of explaining that would be, is that design your template like you would a PowerPoint slide, okay? Pick how you want, where you want the text to be, what size you want the text to be. And then once you get that set, if you don't even dictate a style, what will happen is your default, right? So if you go to your styles and your default style, it won't have any override set. Okay, so it'll let you pick any template you want, right? My default style is set to no templates are selected here. No max lines are set. There's nothing special. Everything is on. The only thing that's set, this may be unique. I don't even know if there's anything. The only thing unique about this is my media fit is set to blur fill. Yours may not default to that because I did change that, I believe, right? But this doesn't have any overrides with it. So when you go into your show and you pick a template, it sticks and it goes out. That's helpful. But if you got a monitor that's out in the lobby, you don't want that lobby monitor to change just because you changed the template. It has to be a certain style because maybe it's a vertical thing, or maybe it's it doesn't need to show any video whatsoever because it doesn't have any audio with it, right? So it needs to just show slides nonstop. Okay, well that one needs to have a certain style that dictates, hey, we're not even going to show slide text. We're just going to show background images. Okay, and that would be your lobby screens for your lobby outputs, and you would pick the monitors that are connected to the computer that are going to the lobby. Okay, and that would be the way that you approach it. So your styles dictate the output, but your templates can play a part in the style. And or if you don't make your templates play a part in the style, your templates will dictate the look of your show. All right. I believe in Pro Presenter. If you've ever used Pro Presenter, which I can't say that I ever have in any robust way, but I believe they call them looks in Pro Presenter and uh, maybe props. Somebody that's used Pro Presenter can correct me on that. So forgive me if I don't know. Um, but yes, so templates and styles are amazingly important for your flow, because if you have a ministry that you have two different versions of the Bible, maybe two different languages, your template is the only thing that can make that show up the way you want. And if you do that every week, then you would make that be a part of a style. I would just say, hey, I want this to be a part of a style because that's what we do all the time, right? Now, if you plan to change that up from week to week and do all that, then maybe you don't add your template to the style to be an override. You just pick a different style that you just tie to your show, right? So I got this particular show here. This show is Agnes D. It's an actual song, right? And so if I wanted this song to look different, I could pick this cursive one and all I do is click it. When I click it, every particular slide changes. That's it. You just have to click it and it locks it in. So if I close this Agnes D, if I remove it out of here, right? If I remove it and I go to shows and I go to my songs, I got two Agnes Ds. I was on the first one. If I drag that over here, let's go to this song here, right? And I'll go here. This song has a whole different template tied to it. But I go to Agnes D. Guess what? That template is still actively functioning there. It saves whatever template you select for that show. It saves it, right? Whereas this one, let's see here, what's this song here? It has a different template tied to it. So if I go to templates, it's got the big bold. When I go to Agnes D, this was the template that I selected for it by simply just picking one. You just click on one and it locks it in. Anytime you close that show, remove that show, and you bring it up 4 weeks later, it's going to have the same template style template that you selected for it 4 weeks before. And so it can be locked in and it'll be the same every time. Going back to consistency, that's going to be very comforting for those in fellowship, in the ministry. They'll know, oh, I know exactly when they see that little box come up, maybe for that song, they can say, oh, that's that song. I can't wait to see that song play because I know which song is coming up. That's my favorite song, right? Because they see the box come up. Um, and then you get to the next slide and you go from there, right? Now, when we talk about templates and styles, some of you all have made comments. I've seen some discussions even on Reddit or whatnot about backgrounds, right? And I like background images. I don't necessarily like motion backgrounds as much, but I love background images in FreeShow to where it gives it a little bit of life. You can make it color, style, branding wise with your ministry colors if you have them. For me, my wife is a brand consultant. I serve with her in business as a brand consultant at times as well. So I know the importance of consistency in the colors and things like that. And so with Free Show, they allow you to put a background in and you can even blur it out a little bit. Like this one's got a little bit of blur to it. So it's not distracting, but it's consistent, right? And I actually tied that to the show. It's not a part of the template. It's just tied to the show. And all I did was I went to my media and I went to some images. I got some wallpaper photos, but I got these files here. I call them YOLO box files because I had a YOLO box that I was using. And I had them on a thumb drive. And I've got these grunge backdrops. You can get these online as well. If you want to go to my website, you like what you see here, you can feel free to get them. But I can make this background be whatever I want. So I can take this one, right? This is an image. I can drag it up here to this first slide and it literally changes everything on this show from now on. So now when I go to refresh over here, which is just update the output, watch it should automatically change. So if I go back here, let's see, go here and then go there, it automatically updates to where now every show or every slide on this show is going to have this burgundy color now. Okay. And so those are something you can change on your own, but just like your templates that you apply to the actual song or show, it'll stick, right? If I close this song out and open it back up, it's going to be burgundy background there because I actually drag that burgundy background right here to the show. So it's locked in as opposed to, let's see, if I go to this one, that burgundy background is not here when I click on the slide of this show because I've got a different video. I got a little bubbles video tied to this one. So the background on here is different, but the template doesn't carry the background. The show is carrying the background and the show is carrying the template and saving it to itself. All right. This is the big bold, I believe, right? And so those two things are separate, but when you put them onto a show on the first slide, you drag it on there, it'll lock it in and save it, okay? Something that some people run into is that, I think this popped up on a Reddit, is someone had dragged a bunch of templates. They put a template on every individual slide. And I personally would have probably thought that's the best way to do it as well, just to make sure that particular show had it. When I first started using FreeShow, that was my mindset. Christopher, who's on with us, or he was on earlier on, he helped me understand you don't have to do that. When you click a template, it saves it to every slide on that show. But if you do want a slide to be different, so let's say what a beautiful name it is. Let's see. I'm gonna look at this. There's a chorus. I'm gonna drag this particular template onto this part of the show. If I can get it, let's see. All right. So I don't want to change it all together. I'm gonna click it back. Let me go back to here. Actually, I had it on big bold. We'll go to big bold. And I'm gonna drag this on just this slide. You'll see this little icon come up. Okay. So every slide is gonna have this big bold as the default template. All right. That's there. But I dragged a certain template to this one slide. When I go to that one slide, it's going to have that unique template. All right. When I go to the next slide, well, I'll just keep it up. I'll keep it up. I'll pull it up. When I arrow to the right, the next slide doesn't have that template. It looks going back to the original template that I selected. If you need a particular slide to have a unique template, that's when you need to drag the template onto that individual slide. And it can be helpful and useful if that particular slide has, maybe it just has an image on it, right? You can make a template that has the announcements style or something like that, or announcement template that just shows the image real big, and that's what you use. And that's for that one slide. And then the next slide is still going to go back to the text. That's something that you can do as a way to use the templates in a customized manner. All right. Now, what other questions do you guys have about templates and styles before I move on to the next topic? Okay, so this is more this beginner level discussion, which is important for the discussion for us to understand. And I know I spent a lot of time on that, but to be honest with you, if you can understand those two things, your templates and your styles, you will breeze through the majority of what you need to understand for FreeShow. Because if you can understand those, you can get started using it with confidence to say, okay, I know exactly what everything's going to look like, and all I got to do is arrow through each particular show. All right, and I can make each show look as how I want and make it work. Right, that's a big deal. So let's go on to our next topic, and our next topic has to do with actions for playlists. Now, I made a video about this earlier this week, but there were some questions that came up in the comments. If you go back and look at that video, or if you saw that video and saw the comments, there were a lot of different, not a lot, there were some questions that came up. Christopher says, hey, it's also good to note that if you edit a template, all the shows with that template applied will be updated. That's major, right? So what he's saying is the power of the template is you don't have to go back and say, oh, you know what? I want all these shows to look different, but they all have the same template. All you got to do is change the one slide on the template, right? Just change the template. All you do is right click on it and go to edit. And when you edit it and you make this big bold, you don't want it to be that big and that bold. You want it to be at 100 instead of 130. Every time, or any show that has that particular big bold template to it is going to be changed to where now it's going to be shown at 100 size font instead of 130 size font. All right. That's major because it does simplify your workflow, especially working in media. And this is why it's so important. Let me go back. It's so important for you guys to understand the power of your templates, because if you do, it'll streamline your process to simplify things. You won't have a lot to worry about, right? You won't have, I'm trying to think about, I know for me, when I first started using FreeShow, one of the things I would do, I did everything manually. I would go and change every slide one at a time and do this and do that. And it was like, I was wasting a lot of time. And me wasting my time, it caused me to sweat more. It caused me to stress a little bit, or a lot more, not a little bit, but a lot more, because I was crunch time and I'm trying to change every slide. All I needed to do was click template and it'll automatically pick the template, or I would pick the template I want. It would change every slide for me. And I didn't understand that. I was going into the show and I would start a show, then I would go to edit on that show. And I would try to change each of these, and I would go to this one, I would change it. I would go to this one and I would change it. And I would go to this one and I would try to change it. And I didn't need to do any of that. All I need to do is click the template, right? So if I go back out and we say, you know what? I want this to be big and not bold. I click that, everything changed. When I click on it now, you'll see that everything's big, but it's not bold. But look at this one. It still has the same one because I tied a template to that particular slide. I'm telling you, when I first started, if I'd have known that's gold. Like you said, somebody said that's helpful. So I'm grateful that Tayil, if I'm saying that right, forgive me. If I'm not saying it right, forgive me. But they're saying they appreciate that and it's a big help. I agree that for me, it would have been a huge help if I'd have known it early on. So this is a time for you guys that are beginners using Free Show. Get these basics down. We're going to try to do this every time we meet for Free Show Friday. There's going to be some basic beginner level understanding that needs to be said, no matter what level I'm on, no matter what level everybody else may be on. There usually is going to be some beginner, because I was looking at the website on Free Show. They're approaching like 2 million downloads, like 1,900,000, 220 or something like that I saw. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And so there's a lot of beginners that are coming into the use of Free Show. Whether they're using it and launching out with it right away is yet to be seen, but they're definitely beginners if they're just now downloading it. This opening conversation on Free Show Friday is going to be dedicated just for those who are just getting started with it to understand. And then for those who've been using it for a while, it should serve as a good refresher. All right. So now let's talk about actions and styles, or actions for our playlist. I'm sorry. So when you start using Free Show for a while, you might end up making yourself a playlist. If you go to this audio tab, I've got a few. I made myself a Christmas playlist called the Christmas album, and then I changed it up and added something. I don't know what I changed here, but they're a little bit different. Oh, this one has one song on there twice, and this was just me testing out and playing with it. But for Christmas, I did actually play this at my apartment and let people hear it. I connected it to the TV so I could play it, and I wanted it to loop. So I wanted to play this album, and I wanted it to loop. And what I did is I made the playlist, and then I just hit this little icon here to make it loop. So it just would play through no matter what slide was showing up on the screen. This songs would continue to play through, and they wouldn't stop. And that was a big deal to me, because I was playing this all morning. I was playing this from like 9 o'clock to like 12 o'clock. And this is not a 3 hour playlist, but it looped and played for 3 hours, right? So the first thing is, well, how do you even make a playlist, right? So you got down here, we got this playlist settings, and it gives you an idea to understand, okay, you want your audio to crossfade for that playlist, your playlist volume, you can set that. But if you're looking to make a playlist, you can go down to your music that you may have selected. If not, just select it by going to new folder. And if you got music on your computer, it'll be there, right? So let me see if I got any Amazon music. Dappy Keys. I got one song from Dappy Keys. So I can select this, or I can just have it there, and I can just hit new playlist. And it automatically creates a playlist. And I'm gonna come out of the playlist settings, and it has that song in it by default. Now I've got the song, but I want to add more songs to it. I can go into, let's see, more downloaded music. Let's see here. Um, these are all downloads. Okay, this is one. Blessed. So I want to add that to my times of refreshing playlist that I just made. I can just drag it in. All right. And then this one, wait a minute, let's put that one in. Boom. So now I go to times of refreshing. There it is. Now, this name came by default because I just added that one song from that album. I can right click on this and rename this. All right. So I'm gonna just call this new, I'm gonna call it new intro songs, right? So if you had some music that you wanted to play at the beginning of service or something like that, it might be there, and then it automatically organizes it in alphabetical order, right? And so for your ministry, you may not need 7 or 8 different playlists. Like I said again, I'm a trainer, and I make videos about this stuff all the time, and I don't always reset everything. I never reset my entire Free Show, but I can delete stuff if I needed to. But you might have 3 playlists. You might say, you know what, I got one before the countdown even begins in service, where people are getting ready and all that kind of stuff. And if you're at a smaller church, there's nothing else going on, right? When I was in the ministries I was a part of, the praise team wasn't practicing. It was just me there getting situated, and some people would trickle in. The ushers would come in, the pastor would be there, and the worship leader might show up. And it might be an hour before service starts, or 45 minutes before service starts. Not a lot of members are there, but I didn't want it to be completely silent and people hear me creaking in the back and pulling cords out and pushing buttons and all that stuff. So I would make music play, but back then I would just use my phone and I would just plug it up to the sound system, right? So what you could do is you can actually run the show and just have a page that says welcome, and just have this playlist loop. And all you do is play it. You just click the song, or you can click down here and just make it play. Just hit play down there and it'll automatically start playing. So if I click play, let's see, I don't know how loud it'll be. Let's see. I had another screen going, so here we go. So I can click play, and it'll start playing. And you'll see it on your music icon here. And if you want to stop it, you can just click stop, and it'll stop the music. And let's see here. Yeah, so it stops. Mine's on a fade, like I said, for my audio settings. So that's another thing. My audio settings, if I go here, I got an audio fade duration of 4 seconds. So every time um, stop audio, it fades out. So it's not an abrupt thing. So everything sounds like it's on purpose. It sounds like I pulled down a slider, gradually. So it sounds a little bit, to me, it's a little bit more polished. So I set that way. So whenever I press stop on something, it doesn't immediately stop. It takes up 4 seconds to fade out, right? Which I like. All right. And so that's how you make a playlist. Now, how do I make that playlist be a part of a show, right? So I got this random numbers show. Let's do edit on this. And I'm gonna just make this say, instead of being random number, we're gonna make this say, welcome to church. And you put in your church name there, obviously, right? So whatever the name of your church is, this will be the opening slide. Now, I want it to look a little bit different, but I want that text to be there. It doesn't matter what it looks like here, because remember, we got our template. So I'm going to say, okay, that's what I wanted to say. I'm gonna go to my templates and I'm gonna make it be big and bold. I like big and bold. So it's welcome to church. It's big and bold. So I've got that there. When I first come into the meeting or to the building, I would probably go in and I would start this show, and then I would go to my audio and actually have this already tied to it. So my new intro songs, what I would do is I would add a function and I would say actions, and I would say new action, and I'm gonna say intro music for church, and I would say choose action, and then I would just go down to find my audio settings, and it says start a playlist. I would want it to be start playlist. There's other options here to start audio stream. I don't use an audio stream, but if you do, you could do that. We got the next track in the playlist and the start a metronome. Start playlist is what I'm looking for, but then it says, okay, well, what playlist do you want? And I'm gonna pick the one we just did, right? New intro songs. And I'm gonna say, okay. So now I've got my new intro songs, and it's called Intro Music for Church. I'm just gonna drag that action right onto the slide. So as soon as this slide starts, right? So if I go out, I'm gonna go to another page, right? You might open up Free Show. Maybe the last show you have was some other thing. And we go to here. I'm gonna go here. And that was actually, I tied another one to that. But now this one is gonna be playing this music. And let me see what the music level is. So it's low. I'll turn it up so you guys can hear it. And so it just says, welcome to church. And it's playing music, right? And that could just be like that, like kind of like an elevator music style where it's just really low key music. This It could be worship music, your favorite worship band, whatever it is, and it could just be playing. And it'll set to where now if I go back to it, it's set to loop. So it's not, I don't have to worry about stopping it or starting it over or wondering if the song is going to keep playing or is it long enough for the next 30 minutes before service starts. It's going to loop. So it's going to automatically play. So however many songs you add to it, it's going to be how frequently or infrequently people are going to hear the same song over and over again, right? This song is 45 minutes long. That's a really long song. So that one is pretty cool. But these others are really short. Typical songs are like 2 or 3 minutes, 2 or 4 minutes or something like that. They would hear that song a lot. But this one, the 45-minute would be enough. It'll just play through, right? And Dappy Keys is a really cool guy. So if you guys want to download this stuff, you should get it. It's really cool. So let's see here. Okay, no other comments. If you got comments, make sure to drop them in, or any questions along the way. Now, somebody said, well, how do you can make it start the music, but how do you make it stop the music? And that's a good question. For me, what I would say you would do is you would make another slide, okay, that would stop the music if you just arrow over, right? So you just arrow over. So let's say we want to make another slide. So I would go to edit, and I would just say new slide. In this slide, it would probably say the same thing. It would say, welcome to church. And this is why it's important to say it this way. I'm going to show you why I'm saying that. They don't have to know that I changed the slide, okay? But this one is going to say, this particular slide is going to have an action that just says stop the music, okay? So let me see. Oh, clear audio. We'll say clear audio. So I got an action already made that's called clear audio. If I right click and edit it, what you'll see is that I just named it clear audio, but the action is actually called clear audio. right? And it's under the clear settings in your actions, and it just turns off the audio. So I do want it to do that. So I would just drag this there. And so whenever it's time for this to go on, the music will start up, right? And you guys can hear it. I'm gonna make sure you guys can hear it. Y'all can listen to some Dappy Keys. Actually, I don't have rights to Dappy Keys, so maybe we can't listen to that. But it's playing. Okay, don't worry. But it's playing. But when I hit arrow to the right to the next slide, so if I'm gonna pull it up for you guys to see it. When I hit arrow to the right, well, actually, I don't want you guys to see that. When I arrow to the right and select this one, the music fades out and it just stops. They didn't see anything different in the church. That's just how I stopped the music. I just went to the next slide. All right. So this is some of the ways you can use your actions. Now I might have 8 other slides in between here, right? I might have some announcements of upcoming events or whatever it may be, but I would make it to where the last slide is going to be the one that I make it to where it's going to just cut the music off, right? That's an option. And so there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Now, let's say you did want to have a lot of different slides. You wanted them to loop. You wouldn't necessarily put this stop action. So you can remove an action by just clicking on it where it's red. You don't need to put the stop action on the actual show. You put it on the next show that you're going to play, right? So maybe you transition from this show the one that's looping, and you go to I don't know what you would go to. You got the welcome, so you say, okay, you go to this time of worship, and maybe you're going to a slide like this, right? That's just a blank slide. So on this one, you would say, I'm gonna drag on clear audio. So I can go into this particular show, start that up, the music starts playing. You can see it kind of showing the volume levels there. And when I go to this next slide now, it doesn't stop the music because there's no action to stop the music. But when I go to this show, check out this icon here. This is the music icon. You'll see it there. When I start this show, watch what happens. The music literally stops and it starts into worship, and we start playing the band or the next track. If you play CDs or whatever it is, that's what starts to play. All right. And so if you're going to use a loop for your opening slides and you want your playlist to play, put your stop audio or your clear audio action on the next show. So it'll stop it, but when it gets to the next show, all the music is going to stop because that little playlist and that slideshow that's looping with your slides and announcements, all that stuff to open up, it's time to transition. When you transition, it'll stop because you put a stop action on the next show and it'll just stop it for you. All right. Without you having to start the show and then go down and hit stop action or go over here and hit that. You don't have to do any of that. You just go to this show and it'll automatically do it. And this is an intermediate level. Like I said, you gain that confidence and that comfort with FreeShow. You'll be able to do things and think about it in that way. That's the main thing, is to think about these things and be understanding that they offer this or that it's available is the main challenge, is that you may not know the FreeShow can do that. Now that you know, now you can use it to your advantage to streamline your workflow in the process for your ministry service, right? So let's look at, and let me go back. Let me go down. Let me see. Are there any questions that come up from this? Let's see here. John says, how about to put in a category and add the action to the category? Oh, yeah, yes. So John had a question. I'm going to go to, this will be a Q&A discussion time. So a category with an action to the category. And so if we go to, I don't know, let's go to shows. There's this option. If we right click on this, there's this thing called category action. So I've got all these different shows. Okay. And you can use these to kind of organize your content, right? So I've got, let's see here, for my overlays, I've got different categories. For my templates, I've got different categories. Let me see. You don't get the category action for your templates. I think it's just for the shows, and somebody can correct me in there if I'm wrong. Let me see. I'm gonna right click on this, change icon. Yes, so it's just for the shows. Let me make sure these aren't categories at all. I don't think. Yeah, you can't right click. These are folders, right? I'm just checking to make sure. Oh, yeah, I don't think you do it for these either. Let's see. Yep, you can't do it for your scriptures. So just for your shows, right? So for your show categories, you can literally add an action to the actual piece. So I can go to category action and it'll pop up and says the start action. Boom. It can be clear audio. When you get to any song, you can make it to where it just clears out any audio that's currently playing. And so you don't have to think about dropping in an action onto the actual first song. It's just whenever you get to the lyrics or the songs, it's going to clear the audio because you know at your ministry in your church, when you get to start showing lyrics, we don't need to be playing music. The band is going to be playing the music, or the musicians are going to be playing the music, whoever they are, the keyboardist or the drummers and the guitarist or whatever they are, they're going to be playing music. So we don't need to play music from Free Show. You can make it where it just clears the audio automatically, right? Great point, John. And you, I think you or someone else had that question earlier, but this is a great way to do that, to where if you make sure you organize your content, you can do it to where that does that, right? We got this other one called Clear Overlays. These are all of our actions that we've made. You can pull any of your actions into your category to say, this is what I wanted to do. All right. Now, an action that triggers each time a show with this category is presented. The thing about this is, I don't think you can do more than one, right? So if you do this, you might actually make an action that has multiple steps to it, right? Multiple things that happen if you want more than one thing to happen for the songs or the items in that category. In this case, I'm highlighting my songs. So if I were to go here, let's see, I've got clear audio, clear overlays. Those two things might need to happen at the same time, right? So I would make a different action that says to do both. So I would go to actions and I would say, I'm gonna say start lyrics. It's gonna be the name of this action, right? And so I'm gonna say choose action. I want it to clear audio, and I'm gonna hit add down here. It's a multi-step. I want it to clear overlays. And let me think about if there's anything else. I don't necessarily want to clear backgrounds. But let me know if you guys have any other things that you all might do beforehand to start. So maybe let's see, overlays. Um, I wouldn't want to stop any active timers that I can think of right away. You might set it to where it changes an output, right? If you have a certain live stream output, you might want it to change that. So you might say change output style, and it'll be for a specific output. Say, okay, now we're going to switch to turn the cameras on. That would be something that you could say. And you could do all those as a part of this action. So I'm gonna go back real quick. So I got start action 1 and start action number 2. I didn't put anything for number 3, but I got these two things happening, and it's called the start lyrics. All right. This is getting more advanced, I would say, more than anything, but very good question, to where you can use this to actually set up, like I said, as many different actions as you want in this one thing when you start lyrics in your service. So I'm gonna hit close. That's locked in, and it's just called start lyrics. If I go down here, here it is, start lyrics. Let me go back to my shows. So now all of my songs, anything that's listed as a song, I'm going to add this category action called start lyrics. I'm gonna scroll up, scroll down. Here it is, start lyrics. Now I don't have to worry about putting anything there. As long as Agnes D, which is here, is a part of my songs category, it's going to stop any music that plays. So if I go back to this, this is playing some music, right? It's playing music. And if I go into this particular show, watch what happens to the music here. If I start this show, since it's a part of that particular category, it should stop the music. And if you notice, the music is fading out and it's gone, right? I didn't click it. It just went away because I started the song. So that is an advanced, I would say it's either high intermediate or advanced level way of managing your flow of your service, but it does an amazing job at streamlining everything for you, right? Let's see here. Christopher says, if someone has too many actions, they can be organized by right-clicking them and applying tags. They will create folders for the actions in the left side in the drawer. Oh, snap. So if I go here, right-click. All right, let me see what you said again. Let's see. Has too many actions, they can organize them by right-clicking them and applying tags. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so if I right-click on this and I say set a tag, oh my goodness, look at this. New tag. So it says nothing here. If I say new tag, I can call this one, I'm trying to think. I got one, I'm gonna say Free Show Friday stuff. So I got Free Show Friday stuff. And so this lets you pick a color. And let's see, I'm gonna make my Free Show Friday stuff. I'll make it be orange. All right. And I can close that out. And actually I put that in there, but I'm gonna go Free Show Friday share. I'm gonna do add a tag. I'm gonna add Free Show Friday. The countdown, add a tag, Free Show Friday. Now, I don't see that tag. Where would I see that tag? Oh, boom. Oh my goodness. That is so cool. All right, so let's see. I got some other stuff in here for Free Show Friday. I don't know where it is though. Let's see here. So this was something that I was really curious about. Christopher, when did that come about? When did we get to do that? Because I'm sure I overlooked it. If I go to set tag, let me see. I'm gonna pick that one. I think those are the only three I got for Free Show Friday. This one I don't think it set it to be that. Yeah, I just went to manage tag. So I got these three things, and these are all related to Free Show Friday. And it's this little carrot here that lets you pop down and show a category for your actions. Basically, a way to organize them through the tags. I love that, Christopher. That is really cool. Really cool. And John, let me know if that answered your question. And I guess it wasn't a question. I think you were giving me the recommendation. But let's see who asked about that earlier. I think it was John. Let's see here. Uh, yeah, John, you were asking about that. That's good. So you said, I'm not sure if there's a possibility to add an action to a show category and to be limited to that category only. Yes. So whenever you add an action to a category, it's going to work on that category or anything that's in that category every time. Now, it's not limited to where you can use those same actions on other items by just dragging them on. But you can make a custom action like I did where it had multiple different steps to it for sure. Uh, Christopher says it has been there for 3 months, I think. That is so cool. John says the same. It is really cool. I agree. That's a game changer to me. I'm excited. I don't know how I can make a video about it, but I might have to make a video about that or something. I don't know. That's crazy. Really cool. All right. So we talked about actions for playlist. Hopefully that makes sense and addresses that. So let's see here. John was saying I was thinking more of the drawer corner when you play the show to add actions. Are you talking about up here on the actual show? More of that drawer. Left, the left. It says, I think you mean the left corner when you play the show. Oh, yeah. I think you're talking about on the show, but you say on the drawer, though. And that's where I get lost. Because this is the left corner of the shows. And you could tell if you got an action set to it, if it's got a little flag next to it. I know that much. But let me know with a little bit more clarity there, John. You're thinking about left top of, are you talking about of the slides here when you say left top corner? Because that is where you can drag an action. It's not a category action, it's just an action, right? So category actions where you drag it onto the category, but you can literally drag actions to any slide in your show and it'll actually activate when you get to that slide, right? Instead of having to press anything. Oh, you're talking about projects. Okay. So over here. So if I right click, no, I don't think you can add an action to an actual show or project overall. If I go back here, let me go back, let me right click on these. You can create a template that kind of saves the organization. Maybe you created some sections in your project, a section for prayer, a section for announcements, a section for worship, a section for teaching. And you can make a template out of that and you can always open it up. Like I got a couple of test ones here. One was a podcast template, a Sunday template, Sunday with stage view is what I called that one. There's a Wednesday template. And so if I go into this, let's see, if I go back out. So Sunday with stage, it's this default settings and I would just switch out the songs, right? So that would be that. Uh, he says you can add actions to sections. Ah, okay, that's what you're thinking about. So if I right click on this section, well, how do I add a action to that section, Christopher? Because I see it. Passes notes. Do I just drag it on? Let's see. I mean, I'm gonna test it out and play with it now. If I do here, clear overlays. How do I add it to a section? Oh, boom, just drop it right on top. Perfect. Yep, that makes sense. So you can do it. You can add it to a section and then make that section be a template, right? So this section has that. Now the question is, how do you get rid of it if you don't want it? Help me out. So I added it in there. How do I get rid of it if I don't want that to be the case? So click new section, then go to the section settings in the bottom right. Oh, so options. Uh-oh. Boom. Oh, I love it. So trigger action when navigating presentation to a section. Trigger action when navigating presentation. So this is global, and I can't do anything there, but this one I can pick different ones or I can clear it out. OMG. All right, Christopher, how long has this been in place? That is really cool too. So yes, what you were asking about, John. So not necessarily categories, but sections. You can literally go to a section. So I can click on this section and I can make it I can click on the options here and pop up certain triggers to activate. Now, like I said, it looks like it only allows you to do one trigger. So if I do clear audio, it doesn't let me do another one for this particular one, but I can go to this one and I can do clear overlays, right? And it'll show the little icon for overlays. This one shows the icon for audio as well. And so I can clear those out. Let's see if I pick something like that. This one has to do, I think, with like outputs or something, but it's got a little flag on it. So the icons change. I like that. And you can go to each one. That is really cool. I love it because it helps you streamline and organize your service really well. For half a year, come on, Christopher, that's crazy. I've never used it or known about that. And John, have you known about that one for a while? Or were you just asking, is it possible, or you weren't curious how it worked? Because that's the one I've never seen before. I love it though. All right. And so we've kind of gone into uh I don't even need to do that one. Let's see here. That's it wasn't supposed to be about stage view. It was supposed to be about let me see my notes here. Hold on. In terms of what we wanted to talk about today, I sent it out in an email. So those who are part of my email list, you would have got an email. So we talked about templates. Um, oh, it was about stage view, but it was about controlling the show from stage view. Now this one was fun, and you guys give me your feedback on it. Do you ever run into a time, or have you right now, are you dealing with a situation where your pastor wants to control the show, um, but they don't know necessarily how to do it well, or you don't may not have made it simple for them to use the app or whatever, and they want to use it from their computer or from their tablet, and they don't necessarily want to have full control over everything. And this is where controlling the show from stage view will work. So going back to John's here, he says, yes, I did know, but I did not. It did not work, or did not know how to set it right. All right. So did my walkthrough help you understand it though, John, to where it makes sense for you? And then we got Jason. He says, good morning. Do you still have to click on the present button twice to stop presenting on the sanctuary screen? That's a good question. Jason Lawrence. Yes. So if you were to show something, you would click that and then it'll ask you when you want to stop it. Are you sure you want to stop it, or something along those lines? And so, yes. Let's see here. John says, not really got that situation. All right. So you're still saying it's still a challenge for you, is what I'm understanding. But basically, you've got to create a new section. So you can create a section down here in the bottom left. And when you create that section, you would name it whatever you want. So I'm going to turn off my options here. And this section is unnamed right now, but I'm going to call this one John's section. I don't know if you sing alto or tenor or whatever, John, but this is going to be your section right here. You got it set. So on John's section, I can select that and I can go down to the options on the right, and I can make it down here where it says present for this section, right? Not necessarily, excuse me, not the global stuff. I'm sorry. This is global, and then this is the current. So I can go here and I can say for this current section, I want it to do whatever it is I pick, right? And you would need to create your actions for this to actually be um, distinct or exactly what you want. So you would create an action and make it pick one of those actions that you got. These are all the actions I've created. And when I pick one, so let's say I wanted to clear audio when I get to John's section, because now we're about to start teaching, right? It'll happen every time I get there. So if I go here to, let's see, I'm gonna play some music real quick. We'll play this. So you'll see the music icon there, right? When I get into here, I'm gonna clear these out. These are a couple different things. So This is in John's section. It says speaker intro. When I click that show, what's going to happen is, or should happen is, it should stop the music. Now, it did not stop the music. Do I have to click the item? I think that's what you're saying. So, Christopher, how do I make it to where when I get into there, it'll actually do it? Because it's not doing that when I click it. It didn't clear the audio. And I think that's what you're saying. Is that right, John? And so, yeah, that's a good point, Christopher. Based on Jason's question, what it sounds like he's trying to do is just clear all, um, and just do that. During the service, personally, my recommendation is you should never have to change or close out all of your slides, or all your outputs. You would just literally just need to clear all, or yeah, that's the only other option until it's time for service to be over. You need to have something always going out, right? Always going out to the outputs. And if you hit clear all, what should happen is it'll make it go black, right? So if I hit clear all here, it should make everything go black, which is what you want. That's it. The reason everything goes black is because this is my primary output, right? If I go to my settings and I go to my output for primary, I've got it set to the default style. Now I go to my styles and see, well, what's the background color for the default style? It's black. If that color was to change to be light gray, then look at what happens. It goes light gray. So you can make that be a theme color, right, for your brand, for your ministry. But if you want it to look like it's completely blank, then I would just make it go to black and keep that as a default, and kind of go from there. And this is where we talked about, if you wanted to, you can put a logo there. But like I said, it would look like it's never cleared out completely. It's going to look like it's a logo there, right? So that's something to consider based on that question. That's a very good point, though, Christopher. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, so Christopher, he says you need to be on the show right before the section and use the arrow right key. That's what I was thinking about. I did not do that. So if I go back to, I'm gonna clear this section out. So I'm gonna delete this section. I'm gonna keep John's section there. All right. So I'm gonna play some music. Let's play the music there. And I'm gonna go to the one of the last slides here. So I got this slide here. I'm gonna arrow to the right. And so I'm over here on the left. You see, this is the show. I'm in For Your Glory 2. John's section is coming up next. John's section should clear out the music. Uh-oh. But the music clear on its own. Let me see. I don't have anything on there that should clear the music, do I? Oh. I got it set to that category. So let me turn off that category. It clears the audio for me. So I'm gonna delete this category action. All right. Let me get that out the way. There's a lot of different ways to do this. We're looking at one particular way. This says when you're playing a show, so I got this show and I'm arrowing to the right to the next lyrics. This one blanks it out. And then when I get to the next section, it completely clears it out. Now, the background stays there. The background was not a part of my template, so it stays there. And then it takes me into the next slide, right? And I just arrowed a couple of times. So based on what the way it works, John, for that, you would have to be arrowing through for it to work, right? Now, for me personally, I like, because I'm not gonna always be arrowing through the stuff. I'm gonna be clicking around. That's my flow, right? And so you might say, I would rather have the category action. So you might say, for everything, when I get to songs, I want all the songs to just have this action to where they'll just clear the audio automatically. But that's one of the biggest benefits or beauties of Free Show, is it is so many different options to do things, to fit your workflow based on your volunteers or based on yourself. If you're the one man band and you're making this work, you pick the one that makes the most sense for you, so you don't have to keep thinking about doing something. And so if that's not flowing for you right, where you add it up here, then I wouldn't worry about that. I would just make it be a part of my category actions and make an action that says, okay, every time I get to anything that's going to be a song, because I've got all my songs in the song category, it'll clear the audio for me, right? Or whatever it is that you were trying to get it to do when it got to that particular section. All right. Let's see. We got about 10 more minutes. What other questions do you guys have as I wrap up here? I want to go back to this stage discussion of this week. We had a video that came out that was talking about how to make a stage display for your leader, right? So maybe they're going to use the connections in the settings where they're going to control the show from the connections. And you say, well, they say, well, I just want to see the stage display because I want to see the current slide and the next slide. Okay, so you're going to have to turn on stage display for them. And then when you click this, they can take a picture of it with their phone or their tablet, or they can just go to this on their computer in their browser. They can go to this IP address, and then they will see this stage display, right? For what I want to do though, I want to show the other one. So I'm gonna go to my stage settings and let me go to my stage setup first. So here, this one's called speaker stage, and I wanted them to see this next slide and the previous slide. All right, so if I go back to my settings and I go to my outputs, this is where your outputs are. Your stage outputs are gonna be a part of your outputs, and I've just got one called stage. And if I click on stage, I've got stage layout to be test outputs, but I want it to be the speaker stage. And you'll see that it changes here. And so now what's going out to my output from the connections is going to be my speaker stage. All right. And I take that back. They can actually, when they get to this, it'll let them pick whatever they want. And so if I go to, let me see if I can copy this out. Oh, it doesn't let me, does it click and do anything when I click on that? I don't think it does. Okay, here we go. It does. All right, cool. And so I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. All right. So this is the browser window that your pastor or leader, whoever it is going to see. All right. So they'll see this. And when they go to the bottom of this page and they click on and they just kind of move around, they can see the options for the different outputs for the stage. So I can go there. Let's see here. I don't want it to be stage. Okay, here we go. So they can hit that little house icon and they can pick any stage display they want for their connection. So they can go to speaker stage and now they see this. All right. And I've only got one slide on here. So we're going to go back into FreeShow. I'm going to pick a different show. And I got this one called Teaching Notes, but let's go to Joshua. All right. So I'm going to go to Joshua. And they're reading and talking from Joshua. All right. They got 30 minutes. We can start the timer if we wanted to. I didn't start the timer, but they can see these notes here, the current slide. And if they hit next slide, it literally takes them to the next verse 2. And they can see verse 3 here ready. This is kind of like what you would see in PowerPoint if you were doing the, I don't even know what it was called, but like the presentation view or something like that, where you would have it showing up on a projector, but then on your computer, you can see the current and the next slide. You can do that. And we just made buttons to go, they can go back if they wanted to, then go forward. And they're literally, now this is the thing, they're controlling the show. All right. So they're literally changing what happens on the main stage primary audience as well. They're not just changing the stage display, they're changing every display to show these particular slides. And if they had a tablet, they can just press with their finger these green, I made them green and orange. You can make your buttons whatever you want to. All right. And so this is a cool feature. If I go back to the stage setup, what I did was I actually had this, I made a box by just making a text box here. So I went to items and I just made a text box. I just typed in next slide in there, right? But then what I did was in the text box, there's this option called special, all right? And under special, what I did was I made the press action be next slide, right? It gives you a list of all of your actions. Yet again, we can see all of our actions. The clear audio is at the top of my list, but you can see all of your actions, right? So I made an action that's called next slide. So they press next slide, it'll literally go to the next slide this on the show. In this case, there's 9 slides and they're on the third one. If I go back, I can go back and now they're on the second show on the previous button. They can click that or click, and go back and forth, which is a really cool feature if you want a simple way for your pastor or leader, whoever the guest speaker is, to be able to see their current, their next, and be able to control, right? You can make any button you want to on this particular display to do whatever you want it to do. And you just make an action for it and then go to your settings for that particular text box. So you got to make a text box and then go to special and pick a press action. The whole video is about it. Go to it, check it out, see how I made it. If you have any questions or you think that's pretty cool, check it out. I think it's a really cool idea for simplifying the pastor's workflow. All right. What questions do you guys have for me in the next 5 minutes, or these last 5 minutes that I've got? Hopefully you got something out of this. We talked about some beginner level stuff. We talked about some intermediate level stuff. You guys had some great questions and comments. I love the thoughts, man. The idea about this whole action to the sections, blows my mind. And then there was something else we did. Oh, the tags for the actions. That one, Christopher, this is like a whole nother video. I got to make this all about actions, right? How to use actions in FreeShow, because this is really cool because now you can organize. So now I can right click on this, for example, and I can make a new tag. I'm gonna say manage tags. I'm gonna call this one new tag. I'm gonna call it podcast. And I've just been working on some podcast stuff. There's nothing finalized for that yet, but I click on that and I can make the colors for my podcast to be that green. All right. So I'll close it out. I can right click on these and I can set a tag to be podcast, set a tag for this one to be podcast, set a tag for this one to be podcast. All right. So now when I'm doing a podcast, I can click here and all I see is my podcast actions. Really sweet. I love that. Instead of seeing a list of all of my actions and I got to scroll through and try to find them, it can be cumbersome. But now I can go to my podcast actions. I can go to my Free Show Friday actions. I love that. Really cool ways to organize your features, right? Thank you, John. Great teaching, you say. I appreciate that. Great questions and feedback, though. I love that you were voicing that you had that challenge with these sections, and then we got the developer himself, Christopher, on here just walking us through, giving us a sweet class on how he designed it to work. That's the best part about this to me. Now, we didn't have time today, but next time we meet, hopefully I'll have time to have actually downloaded the latest version of FreeShow. 1.4.2 is already out. I think it seemed like just last week we were talking about 1.4.1, but I think it might have been 2 weeks ago now. And there's a lot of new features that are, I'm gonna call them intermediate to advanced features. I'm gonna let you guys go and look at them on your own. Choose to upgrade it and update if you want to. Hopefully next week I'll have time to dive into that and talk to you guys about it on Free Show Friday about all the cool features and how they work. A lot of stuff that he's created that is going to be like I said, in that intermediate to advanced level. And hopefully I'll have time to make some videos about it. But for me, whenever new features come out, I got to learn it too. So it's a twofold thing. It's not just me bringing it up and discussing it with you guys and saying, hey, look at this. It's more of, I might have questions for Christopher or somebody on Reddit or whoever can help me out and say, hey, how does this work before I make a video or before I discuss it with you guys? Because just like you guys, I'm learning it too. We get to see it together. So it's a really fun process for a team that, with a development team like this, that they're constantly making it better. That's exciting to me. I love technology and programs that do that. And these are really cool features. So Christopher, thank you for updating things and making things that are some awesome features. Let's see here. Yeah. Christopher, yeah, thank you for sticking around, Christopher. I know that you got a busy life and workload, but I hope, like I said, next time we'll probably talk about 1.4.2. And if you can be there, that'd be great. Today we probably could have talked about it. I just didn't have time to, and I haven't had time to really dive into it. So I really didn't feel comfortable jumping into discussing it with anybody else. So I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Check out some of those videos from this week if you have not already, and continue to grow with Free Show. Set a poll on YouTube. Check it out. It's a poll asking about your comfort level with Free Show. Right now, let me see if I can pull up the internet. I had this poll. Let me pull that out the way. So I made a poll to show, I wanted to find out where everybody's comfort level was, and I want to show you guys the results so far. But if you have not filled it out, check it out and let me know your thoughts. Let's see here. View your channel. All right, post. Boom. All right. So this is what it looks like on my end. All right. So here's the post. Where are you on your Free Show journey? Right now, 38% of you guys are saying, hey, I'm there. I've got it. I've downloaded it. I've started using it. Stop using OpenLP, or I stopped using Easy Worship, or whatever it was that I was using. And almost 40% are saying, but I'm still a little nervous about using Free Show, which I completely understand. Those jitters are real. Then some people are saying, hey, I want to switch, but I need to have more answers before I do it. And that more has to do with just your personality and how you want to flow with it in terms of your comfort level. And some of you guys have jumped in and are kind of like me. I would have used it and been nervous about it, but also I'm probably in between here in terms of my first jump into it and saying, okay, I'm gonna get all the answers I need to at least get up to par to what I'm currently using, and that's well suited and well understood. Continue to listen on Free Show Friday because that's going to be the time where I can answer direct questions from you guys and also focus on beginner level stuff every single week to help address any questions you might have. So feel free to drop them in. Go to my website. You can ask me questions there as well. Go to Reddit. You can ask Christopher and the development team, the people that actually know a lot more about it than I do. You can ask them the heavy duty questions. And if I have a video about it, I'll probably try to drop an answer, say, hey, this video might help, right? And then 13% said that they downloaded, but they just have not been convinced to switch. And I think there's a lot of people like that. Based on our interview that we had, there was this I understand there were about 9,000 ministries that use it on a weekly basis, but there are almost 2 million downloads, right? So there's a lot of people that have downloaded it because it's free, maybe, and they don't understand that this is not a game. This is a serious program that works really well at a high level. And then there's others that have switched. 30% have switched and couldn't be happier. So I love that. So keep using it, keep growing with it, and it'll get easier, it'll get better. Stay encouraged, and